From today's class, we'll be seeing the second part of databases, okay, LINQ technologies. Full form is language integrated query. Okay, so I want you to understand this is the recent trend in .NET database interaction. Okay, starting with ADO.NET, which is very old, and ADO.NET is still the actual way of communication with the database, but LINQ is a layer on top of it. Okay, and using LINQ is the next technology what we are going to learn, entity framework. So if you don't understand LINQ, the third chapter what we are going to learn, entity framework, will be useless. All right, so this is something which is not that difficult. It is much simpler compared to learning SQL, because here everything is taken care by C# itself. That's why the word goes language integrated query. Okay, so the moment you see the word query, you can automatically follow that it is basically like how SQL is a structured query language. This is also going to be a query language, but this is not a separate language. Okay, so far, just think about whatever database technology you have interacted with. Okay, let it be JDBC or PHP MySQL or I think what else we have, Python and SQLite, or whatever you have come across so far. Python or PHP or Java or whatever language you have come across keeps separate. SQL, you still write select star from table name. I hope you get the link here. Okay, it doesn't matter which database you use, you still write select star from table name. All right, let it be Access, then MySQL or Microsoft SQL or Oracle, whatever you have done the same query. But when you go advanced into these database technologies, do you think Oracle and MySQL are same? Belongs to the same company, but they are not same. The engine what is used in Microsoft SQL is different from MySQL, it's different from Oracle or PostgreSQL. Whatever you are coming across, engines are different. Okay, so when will I see the difference? Select, insert, update and delete. We see every database same, because SQL is a standard. It is not compulsory for all of them to use the same way, but all the database technologies use the same logic so that everybody feels comfortable when they learn SQL. But please note that it is not the same in all the languages. Okay, when will you realize that? When you start working with cardinality, not with simple queries. In colleges, mostly you would have come across only queries, right? Select, insert, update, delete, that's all. Okay, we don't go above that because our timeline doesn't allow to go above that, because when you go above that, I think you would have gone that only in that database subject. Okay, in database subject specifically, you would have gone to join, you would have come to cardinality, you would have come to relationships. Okay, all those things in advanced normalization, all those things can be covered only in a database class. But when I'm using database in a programming language, I cannot go in depth of normalization, joins and cardinality. Okay, so when it comes to that picture here, when you learn Oracle, there'll be a different set of 1:1 and many is to one. I hope you have come across that, right? Many to many, many to one, all those things. The query, concept is same. How I tell to you what is 1:1, 1:many, many is to many, many to one. All those things, concept is same, but have you seen the query? Oracle, MySQL, not same. The queries are totally different. Okay, not only that, let's take a simple idea of how to create a table structure. We have auto increment in MySQL. There is no such concept in Oracle. There is a concept here in Microsoft SQL, but it is not called auto increment, it's called identity. Concept is same. Words are different. Okay, just because you heard the word auto increment doesn't mean that you know auto increment in all the languages. It changes. Now we have learned a new one. Okay, so I'm just giving that as an example, but please understand that the syntax is not the same in all the languages. Okay, it is similar. Same is not equal to similar. It's similar, but it is not. Okay, it's not exactly same as learning one language. And if you know Oracle, you will be able to write query in MySQL. No. Normal queries, yes. Advanced queries, no. So what happens to a developer when he starts working with, why do I require a database? To manipulate data. All I need is manipulating data. I don't care what database you are using. But when you go to an industry, okay, it depends not on our personal choice. It's not like I like MySQL, so I'll be using MySQL everywhere. No, not possible. So wherever you go, where you end up, there, whatever database they use. Now it's not even databases. It's moving on to NoSQL, and we are storing it in a different level, not in this level. But still, I'm not saying this is outdated. It's still valid and relevant in a lot of scenarios. Okay, only when there is an ample amount of data which a normal database cannot handle or index, then we bring NoSQL and all the other database structures. but still this is valid. This will be valid. Okay, so when we move on to that kind of an idea, we have a problem that as a developer, not only I learn a language, and I also have to learn everything about a database, which is totally not required if I know one language. That is from the beginning I'm telling that only about .NET. It tries to give you one language, you do everything, not just focusing on different languages. If you learn C#, there is absolutely no requirement for you to learn VB. If you learned VB properly, you don't require to learn C#. Whatever languages they are offering. I hope you see that. They don't care about the language what you are using. Technology is same for them. The way of working is same. So why do they give these choices? Your choice. What you are comfortable with, choose that language and start developing. Okay, so when it comes to database, again, we have a problem. Language, you have come to one language, C#, you are learning and doing everything with C#. You can develop console application, mobile application, web application, whatever you want with C#. When it comes to database, again, .NET's idea deviates. You'll have to learn different technologies to do database related operations. So in order to fix that problem, we have one more layer on top of databases. On top of ADO.NET, we have this layer, which is called language integrated query. Okay, what does it mean in a nutshell? In simple words, what is language integrated query? Do not use SQL to write queries. To query a database, no need to learn SQL. Rather, you can still use C# itself to query a database. That's why it's called language integrated. Okay, which language am I talking about? The language which you are learning for programming, C#. Here, the language which I am talking about is C#. It doesn't matter, guys. It can be VB also. Okay, but since our syllabus is highlighting C#, I'm going to take it in C#. Okay, the language integrated query is writing query using the programming language which you already know, not writing with SQL. I hope you got this simple. Okay, let me go in detail of all these things and we'll see. And one advantage here in LINQ is it is not only to database. Okay, and it is not only to Microsoft SQL. You can use any database. Okay, only one condition here is it should be a collection of data. Okay, it should be a collection of data. That's all is the requirement. That collection of data can be, let's say, an array. It's a collection of data. A string, it's a collection of data. Okay, a list. I hope you follow what I'm saying. Okay, that is also a collection of data. Putting it in database, that's also a collection of data. It's collection of data stored under one umbrella. That's all we are trying to get. Anything it can be. Okay, I'll show you examples and how it works shortly, but just have this in mind before we go into this concept. Do not think it's a complicated one. It's a very simple one, but the keywords and the operators are n numbers. Okay, I cannot discuss everything in class because it will take another entire thing, because so many operators are available. Just like how SQL, it's not possible to cover it in one class. Just like that, LINQ also is not possible to cover in one class, but I have an advantage that you already know databases. This is something which people who don't have any idea of databases start with and they find it easy. But those who have already have database idea, you just need to map it. What you know in SQL, you need to map it in C#. That's all. Okay, so let's go into that quickly. What we are going to see for today is what is LINQ and what are the building blocks, what are the sequences, what are operators, what are expressions inside LINQ. Okay, and there are different types specifically linked to objects, and how do you query a collection, and all these keywords what we are going to see. Okay, so all those words are related to database, but I'm going to bring it into, doesn't matter what database, it's a collection of data. That's all we are going to focus on. Okay, what are the building blocks of this is what I just told. I'm just repeating it here in the slide. Okay, we spend a lot of time in manipulating data, right? Not just programming. Even if you are doing a program, basically there's an input, there's an output. What is that input? Data. What is the output? Processed data. I hope you follow. This is what we've been doing as developers. We just create a software not just to calculate. Even if it's a simple calculator, you need to give data. You follow what I'm saying? The data, what we are manipulating is what we basically do. Most of the time, we only do manipulation of data. Most of the time. Okay, so we waste time in learning new databases. That's what Microsoft is trying to tackle here. Okay, we normally store data in a collection. It can be in a module, it can be in XML, it can be in database, it can be a lot of data sources, and for everything we need to learn a different syntax. If you want to read data from XML document, you have to learn a new syntax. If you want to query from string, you have to learn separate syntax. If you want from int array, separate. If it is a list, it's a separate one. That's what we've been learning, isn't it? If you are, for example, C# or Java, any language you take, there is a list, there is an array. Both are same? No. Okay, you write different syntaxes to access data, to insert data, to add or retrieve, whatever you do, syntaxes are different. But still, both are collection. List is also a collection of data, array is also a collection of data. I hope you get the idea. Okay, so these are the things which we have as a problem. And from .NET 3.5, please note initial .NET did not have this. From 3.5 onwards, right now I think 5.0 is about to get released. We get mail saying that the new, what is the sneak peek of .NET 5.0 is coming now. What we are working in 2019, I think it's 4.7 or 4.5. I'm not sure. Based on your laptop, check what version of .NET framework you're using. Okay, I think 2019 means it should be above 4 only, minimum. Alright, so whatever version you have installed, check what version you have. Alright, but 3.5 minimum onwards, you have LINQ. Below that, those who have installed 2015 and below, it might not work. Okay, even if it is 2015, if it is above 3.5 .NET framework, okay, please note the difference. Visual Studio is different, .NET framework is different. Okay, everybody's laptop will have .NET framework, one way or the other, but not everybody will install Visual Studio. I hope you got the difference. Alright, normal people who do not want development in .NET, when you install some softwares, it will come there. You need .NET framework to run or Visual C++. You would have seen that if you are trying to install some software, it will come as Visual C++ is required to run this software. When you do that, basically you are installing .NET framework. I hope you follow. Alright, so from 3.5 onwards, you use LINQ. Below that, you don't get LINQ. Right, below that, we do not prefer using .NET. Okay. Above 3.5 is preferred. Let's move on. It is a set of extensions to the framework of .NET. Please note, it is also a layer, which means it's also acting like a framework, but it is on top of the .NET framework. It's like adding an advantage to an already advantaged framework. Okay, it's a set of extensions. It encompasses language integrated query, set, and transform operations. There are a lot of operations. I hope you know what set operations. You'd have seen that Venn diagram and all, A union B. Okay, that operations, transform operations, etc. A lot of operations can be performed using language integrated query. It is a consistent manner. That's what I've been telling so far. It is a consistent manner to obtain and manipulate data. What do you mean by consistent? If you are right now, today you're working with Microsoft SQL. Tomorrow they're telling you to work with MySQL. Your code will not change. It's consistent. It doesn't matter what source of data you use, your code will still remain the same. But what if, imagine if I'm written the regular way of writing SQL query. From SQL query, you have to change it back into Microsoft to Oracle is not the same. Your syntax will differ little bit, but still you will have to sit and find where and all you have written the code and go and change it. If you are using language integrated query, it's consistent, which means it is independent of what data source you are using. Query would look the same anyway. Okay, it's a broad sense of term. That's what I just said. Okay, so anyway, query expressions can be defined directly within the C# programming language. Not only C#, VB is also there, but I am highlighting C#. Okay, that's the language which we are bothered about. Okay, it is used to interact with numerous data types, and it converts expressions at compile time and evaluated at runtime. It generates a tree, expression tree at compile time, but when you run, it gets actually executed. Okay, so evaluated at runtime only. And I'll show you how it works shortly, but remember this, it's consistent and it is within the C# programming language. One. Okay, and it allows you to manipulate what? Okay, in simple terms, any object that implements an interface called as IEnumerable. Okay, in not only in C#, even in Java, interfaces should be denoted by a different symbol. Okay, here the interfaces are denoted with a keyword called I in front of it, not small letter I, it changes the meaning, capital letter I. Okay, if you find I in front, it just indicates it's an interface. Capital letter I, not small letter. Please note, camel casing is not there in C#. Okay, in Java it is there, which means small letter and then capital letter. No, here everything is caps. I mean, the first letter of every word is caps here, right? So here you see I and E are in capital letter. I stands for interface. and it's an enumerable interface. What do you mean by enumerable? Whatever you can count. Okay, if it is one item, you will not be able to count. How many buttons are here? That I can count. That's enumerable, not this object itself. I hope you follow. When will I bring enumerable? When there is more than one, so that I can count them, not just one element. Okay, for example, int is not enumerable. Int array is enumerable. I hope you follow, right? Okay, so any object that implements this interface called enumerable. Anything which is a collection, that's the keyword we are looking for, collection. You would have studied the same thing in every programming language. Okay, collections module in Python. What are the collections module in Python? List, set, you have dictionary, tuple, all these things are collection module. String is also a collection. What is it? It's a collection of characters. Collection of characters is string. So that string also is a collection. That's what, in simple words, collection of objects. That object can be anything. Okay, but it should be a collection. That's all is the requirement. And you can manipulate relational databases. Okay, that's a question mark. Why relational database? Because it's also a collection of data stored under in an organized fashion under one name. Relational databases. What about XML? Same. XML also is a structured data, isn't it? Not HTML. HTML is used to present data, but XML is used to store and transport data or manipulate data. So that also is considered as something which you can query with LINQ, and they are based on numerous SQL-like query operators. Okay. Now, please note, concept is same, but since it came a little bit later, after 3.5, they gave two choices. One, those who have already studied Microsoft SQL, or so in other words SQL. Okay, those who have already studied SQL, for them we'll give a different syntax. Syntax will look like SQL only, but you'll be writing it inside C#. Okay, those who are not studied SQL at all, and they are directly coming into programming language alone, for them there is a different type of syntax. Both performs the same thing, but you'll have two different types of syntax for your benefit. Whatever you are comfortable with, you can take it. If you are a hardcore programmer, we have something called fluent syntax. That is only if you are really good in programming and you know what is lambda expression. Have you come across that? It is there in Java, it is there in Python, it is there in C# also. Lambda expressions. Okay, two types of syntaxes are there. I'll show both, but I'll not be using lambda expression because I know that you all have SQL experience. So we'll go with query syntax, but I'll show both in the slides. Alright, we'll see if it's possible to work out also. Now, it is intentionally designed to look and feel very similar to SQL expression for people who have that background. Okay, let me just go into the word. It is used to describe this overall approach to data access. Okay, what are the different types available? Starting with, I just told, but let me just put it technically. One, link to objects. What objects? Whoever implements enumerable interface. One. Second one, link to SQL. Okay, it doesn't matter which SQL. Microsoft SQL, MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL, doesn't matter. SQLite, whatever you have. Link to SQL. Alright. Language integrated query to entities. That's our next step, what we are going to see. Okay, link to entities. I hope you have come across this word a lot of times in databases, especially with entity relation diagram. You know what is an entity, what is a weak entity, what is a strong entity, etc., etc. What is an entity? It's something. It's a real-time object. Okay, so that's what you have learned, right? So we know what is an entity. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to even query those entities in any format they give it to us. Okay, so that's the third one, link to entity. That's what is our next target, link to entities. Next one, link to data set. Have I heard that word before? Data set. ADO.NET. Okay, we have disconnected architecture and ADO.NET. What is data set basically? It is an XML representation of your entire database. Okay, I think I showed in another class where an Access database I created with some relational data, like 4 or 5 records, and you saw what is the file size. 4 or 5 records, and what is the file size? And when I convert the same records into XML format, what was the file size? I hope you remember. Okay, so XML is also a very strong data store. Okay, only thing is it is not secure because anybody can open it. It's a text file. Okay, but if you just want to transport data over the internet, XML is a perfect choice because small size. It will transfer faster compared to actual databases transferring using server. Okay, so link to data set is basically a language integrated query on top of a data set, which is basically an XML file, but it is not shown to you as XML. It is shown to you as a class, data set as a class. But imagine if I wanted to take it to XML, I can still do that also. A plain direct XML file also I can query using link to XML. Okay, these are the different terms, or these are the different entities in which we have language integrated query. Okay, I'll just show you a diagram which is linked to star in the sense everything or anything. Okay, so this is the diagram which I'm expecting if at all the question comes for architecture. Okay, so at the bottom you have three things here, basically objects, relational data, XML. Okay, what can be objects? Objects can be anything, string, list, integer, whichever implements IEnumerable interface comes under the category of objects. Whatever is stored in a database, maybe Access, SQL, Microsoft SQL, MySQL or PostgreSQL, SQLite, whatever it is, relational data. If it is stored in the format of XML. So you have these things. Above that you see link enabled data sources. These are all one. You see that three have been put under one small box. You can see here. Okay, so this entire thing is it's put inside one box called link enabled ADO.NET. Okay, basically you will not be writing SQL. You will be writing C# only. But can I take that C# code and go to a database and expect the database to understand? No. So ADO.NET will translate it back into whatever you are trying to tell, which means I need not know SQL. I need to write it in C#. It will be converted or translated into SQL when it is required. That's the thing which we are seeing here. Okay, all these are link enabled data sources. These three, what you see, link to dataset, link to SQL, link to entities. All these three are with respect to ADO.NET, which means basically SQL queries. Okay, but this is not database. This can be any object. It can be just an int array, a string array, whatever it is. Okay, and this side, it's XML. It's directly to a file, not to a database. So there are basically only three types, but if you divide it, it is 5. I hope you can remember the keywords, it's important. And this entire thing, we call it as .NET's language integrated query. And what language you can use is, .NET would obviously prefer C# or VB. There are other languages, but they are not supported much. The support is there high for C# and VB. Okay, and we are going to work with C#. Right, let's move on. Query operators. All link operations what you perform has 3 distinct operations. Okay, now I'm going to show what Microsoft has told. These are the 3, but I'm going to make it different, but this is the technical way of telling it. Okay, what are the 3 distinct actions which are performed on top of link? Okay, is number 1, obtain the data source. Number 2, create a query. Number 3, execute the query. Alright, these are the 3 distinct operations which you perform using link. Okay, when you query with link or language integrated query. Now, this might be confusing, but let me keep it in simple terms. First, let me show the technical syntax, then something which we can understand. Okay, so how do I write a query in SQL? Okay, just remember, look at the syntax. Select something, okay, from somewhere. Okay, this is the simple syntax. Simplest syntax is select star from table name. Let me just change it into select something from somewhere. Now, in this 4 words what I have said, select something from somewhere, where is the source? What is the source of data here? Something or somewhere? You got it what I am saying. Select something from somewhere. What is the data source here? From somewhere. That where somewhere is the actual data source. Okay, here it is little bit reversed. See, first step itself is get the data source. In SQL, you tell what to select, then you say where to select. Here, you say where to select, then you proceed with other things. First required is data source. Then you say what are the things you want to perform on that. Then you tell me to execute that query. Okay, but please note, in SQL, whatever you have seen so far, the first word itself tells you what you are doing. Select, insert, update, delete. You are telling what is the operation. First word itself you tell. Here it is reversed. You first tell where is the data, source of data. Then you tell me what to do with that data. Okay, that's why it's a little bit different, but not entirely different. You will understand it, and it is much easier to debug here in language integrated query. I'll show you how. Okay, so basically this is what I just told. I'll skip this. Okay, what are the advantages of using LINQ? That's what I told, but let me just quickly revise. Okay, number one, familiarity. Okay, developers don't have to learn a new query language for each type of, that's what I was telling so far, right? Okay, for each type of data which the company gives you or the client tells you to use, you need not learn a new language. Okay, developers don't need to learn a new query language for each and every type of data source which is available or data format which is available. Second one, less coding. I'll show you how it is less coding shortly. But then please remember, it is comparatively less coding than ADO.NET. How we have written code in ADO.NET will not be working out for bigger applications. Okay, right now I have written only four fields I've created. It's very easy to write insert, update and delete in there. But imagine if I had multiple tables and join operations and all, that's not easy. That's why I do not prefer using multiple tables in ADO.NET. But rather, when I have multiple tables, I'll go for language integrated query or the next one, entity framework, not this. Okay, the reason is coding. The amount of code which I write if I use SQL will be comparatively small when I use C# itself. In other words, the language integrated query, whichever language you choose. Okay, second advantage. Third one, the code will be clearly readable. If you notice, when you write SQL query inside C# or Java or Python, wherever you write, you have to write it within double quotes. Correct? SQL code, what you write, within double quotes, you write select star from table name. Now, there will not be any formatting there. You cannot format it because it's a string. It will come in exactly string however you are typing. And maximum what you can do is you can type it in different lines. That's all. You cannot format it. You cannot spell check it. If you made a mistake in that syntax, system will not tell you. You will have to run the program and then this exception will hit and tell this query is not understandable. Then you will sit and see what is the problem and then we find out this is the query mistake or what I have made. Okay, like how we did yesterday. Alright. Every time we run, we have to run the program and find out what is the mistake because it's written within double quotes. Because whether I made a mistake in the table name, whether I made a mistake in the column names, nothing I can find out until I run the program. But here I don't have that issue. Because I'm writing it in C#. C# should be evaluated before even I run it. So compile time only I can fix my problems. Not running and then finding out that this is a problem. That's one more big advantage we have here. Readable code as well as debuggable. Okay, it's easily debugged. Standardized way of querying multiple data sources. This is what I've been telling from the beginning. You have multiple data sources. The syntax is exactly the same. No difference between Microsoft SQL, MySQL, Oracle. Okay, the same LINQ syntax can be used to query multiple data sources. This is one of the highlights of learning this kind of technology. Okay, now if you ask me, is it not available in Java? It is, but it is not directly from Java, but it is given from something called a framework of Hibernate. Hibernate is basically this. It's called as an ORM. Have you heard of that word? ORM. Right, object relational mapping. I've taken this in the last semester, not last semester, Java. When we handled Java, we have this concept I've introduced, but I didn't take it in detail because it was not there in syllabus. Okay, but this time it is there. This, whatever we are going to learn anymore is called as an ORM, short form for object relational mapping. Just name itself tells you what it is doing. It is going to map between object oriented programming language and a relational database. ORM. Okay, object relational mapping, object oriented programming language mapped with relational database. That's what we are doing now, right? Okay, so that's it. So it can be queried to multiple data sources. That's what we've been seeing. Compile time safety of queries. This is what I just told with our example. All right, you need not run the program n number of times to find out what is the mistake in the SQL. Compile time only, it will show error. Without even running the program, the system can understand that you have error. How does it know? There is a concept called IntelliSense inside Visual Studio. When you type, if Visual Studio tells there is an error, it will never run. If the Visual Studio cannot find out an error, it is not a compile time error, it's a runtime error. And when you type, if Visual Studio understands what you are doing, it should give you appropriate suggestions. If it is not giving you suggestions, you are not in the right path. I hope you follow. Same thing applies to any ID which we have come across. Here we call it as IntelliSense. That's Visual Studio's keyword, IntelliSense. Okay, and it provides for collection. So we'll know compile time itself, you will be able to fix almost all the errors. If it compiles properly, the program will be mostly guaranteed to run. That's the idea in language integrated query. Shaping data, you can take the data and that's what, manipulating data however you want. Okay, that's possible in language integrated query. Let's move on. What is that IEnumerable? It's an interface. That's what I've said. I hope you guys know what is an interface by now. Alright, so it is universal linked data source, which means any object that is implemented by this interface, with this interface, is queryable. In other words, if I have more than one record, I can query it. If there is only one record, what is the point of querying it? Int I is equal to 10. What will you query in this? I, print the value of I. That's it. But if I say int array of even numbers and I put bracket and I put 4 or 5 elements in it, at least 2 elements in it, I can query it. I hope you follow. Okay. In other words, it should be a collection, not an individual one. Alright. You cannot query something which is just one. If it is more than one, you can do. That's the idea. Alright. So let me just quickly go through. It is implemented by all arrays and all. One thing you need to understand here is, let me just, any variable, last line, declared as IEnumerable for type T. What do you mean by a type T? Any type. What type? Data type. It can be integer, float, boolean. You have so many data types we have learned, right? Any data type which falls under the place of the T. The type T for a sequence of type T. Okay. It enables enumerating over a collection of elements. That's what I've been repeating, but technically, that's all. Alright, so let's move on. The syntax. And that's what I told you in the beginning. There are two syntaxes available. Please note, I said two types of syntaxes available. Concept is same. The syntax is different. Okay, there are two types of syntax available. One is a query syntax. It will look exactly like an SQL query. That's for people who are coming from SQL background. Will be easy to catch on to that. The first one. And that's what I'll be using in our class. Okay, in the sense, in real SQL code when we are writing, we'll be using query syntax. Okay, sometimes it's also called as query expression syntax. Idea is still the same. Alright, second one what you see is called method syntax. Alright, that is not, will not exactly look like an SQL query, but it is a collection of methods. I think we have you come across chaining of methods? It's there in Python, it is there in JavaScript. You write one method and then you attach one more method, dot something, and it keeps on going. That's called a chaining of methods. That is available in method syntax. Method syntax is a series of methods written, but specifically they use something called extensions. There are a lot of extensions available for a particular collection. That will be called here. I'll show you both. Okay, and one more keyword for that is called fluent syntax. The second one. First one is query, second one is method. These are the two words I'll be using. Query syntax, method syntax. Okay, method syntax demands you to use lambda expressions. That is why it's called a fluent syntax. People who are fluent with the language can write that. Okay, I'll show you examples and you can decide which one you like. Alright, but I'll be using the first one because that's the most simplest one for a person who has already learnt SQL. Alright, let me move on. In LINQ queries, the first step is to procure or to get the source of data. Okay, to specify the data source. Just like how I told in SQL, you don't do that. You say what you want, then you tell from where you want it. Here, you have to tell first from where you want it. Where is the data source? Okay, in C#, as in most programming languages, a variable cannot be used before it is declared. That is a simple concept, right? If for example, I write int I equal to something, then I can access print I. But I can't write print I, then say int I equal to 10. Not possible. Same logic applies when you write query also. Without even telling where is the data source, you can't tell select something from that. Do you follow? But in SQL, we don't do that. We say select something without even knowing where the data is coming from and then say from here. That is not allowed in programming languages. Programming language, you have to first declare, then tell from what you want to do with that. Okay, same idea. And the from clause comes first in LINQ. That's what I just told. Okay, the from clause comes first in order to introduce the data source and something called as the range variable. Okay, before I go to that keyword range variable, I guess everybody has written at least this syntax once. For I in Python, I'm talking about, for I in range. Have you written that? Okay. What is that I? Is it declared anywhere before? Is it possible to do that in C# or Java? For I equal to 0 directly, you will have to initialize that I somewhere or the other. You can initialize there also, but in Python you don't have that. You directly write for I in range. What is that I? What is it helpful for? It is also a variable, by the way. Okay, it is a variable which helps you in iterating over that range, what it is given. So can I call it as a range variable? Same word here. Here also you need not declare it. That's one more extra thing here. It looks like Python syntax, but it is not. Okay, it is allowed to use as a ranged variable. So let me just show you that in code. Okay, first one, please note the from clause comes first, and then the data source with the range variable. Then followed by you have filtering, ordering, grouping, joining. All these words you have seen in databases. What do you mean by a filter in database? Where you put lot of where clauses, where that is this condition and or, that's filtering. Ordering, order by you can say ascending or descending, order by this particular variable ascending, that particular variable descending. You can do all those things. And then grouping, group by. Okay, joining, join, inner join, outer join. You have a lot of things. Same concepts can be applied. And the last thing is projection. Please remember this keyword. Okay, map it with the keyword of select. It is select only, but the technical word we use here is projection. In other words, showing. What I am doing right now is I am showing you the data. What you are telling select star from data is get me the data or show me what is there in the database. That's what you are trying to tell, but the technical word is select star from table name. Okay, in other words, show me what is there in this table. Project me what is there in the table. Projection. Please remember the keyword here is projection. Not only here, anywhere you in technical terms, if you hear the word projection, it means show, display, select. All are synonyms. Remember that, okay? That's the syntax what I want you to remember. Okay, not technical, guys. This is not for when somebody asks you technically, don't tell that. Okay, but technical syntax will be followed shortly. But just for your understanding, from something, okay, or somewhere, that something becomes your range variable. That's why I did not put collection. Okay, from you need to give a range variable. In other words, from something in some collection, select something. Please note 2 times something is repeated. Okay, I'll show you an example, but this is the simplest way I can tell this syntax. The same thing how would I have written is select something from table name or something from collection. That's how I would have written in SQL. Here I should tell from where. So from something in some collection, that entire thing is one line for you. Okay, that something here what I've written is a range variable. It's like for I in range. Okay, select I. That's what we are trying to tell. Okay, so the from clause is first because it defines the context for IntelliSense, which is used to aid your other suggestions. Okay, if the first line itself does not know where you're talking to, remaining lines also will not know what you're writing. The first line itself, we should tell what is the source of data, especially if you are going for a projection. What do you mean by that? Retrieval. Especially if you're going for retrieval, you should tell from where should I retrieve it. And then the first word after from keyword is referred to as the range variable. The first word, I'm repeating it again, the first word after the from keyword is referred to as range variable. Okay, what is the first word after from? Something I've written, right? That is a range variable. That can be whatever name we give. It need not be initialized before. Okay, I'll show example, but remember this. The range variable plays the same role as an iteration variable in a for loop. Right? What is the what advantage of using that I there? Index. To access elements, we use that I, temporary variable. I use it. Same thing here. Okay. This is the technical syntax. Okay. From range variable in, it can be a collection. It can be I enumerable collection or I queryable collection. What do you mean by enumerable or queryable? Basically, it should be queryable. It should be a collection. Okay, so that is in collection. Then you have to put your query operators, lambda expressions, etc., etc., whatever you want, whatever operations you want to perform on it. Where order by, group by, joining, whatever you have, that comes in the second line. Third line, by the way, it's all written in one line. I'm just dividing it into 3 lines and showing. Okay. Third one, select or group by, and then finally form the result. Okay. I'll give you a program example so that it's easy for us to follow. When you have a collection of data, a common task is to get a subset from that data. Right? For example, shopping cart websites. When you go to a shopping cart website, there is n number of data available. What you do is filter. You filter, then you order, then you group it, and then you see what is required for you. They have already grouped and kept, right? For example, electronics. Okay, whatever comes under the categories of electronics goes there. Then you have inside electronics, you have some group, and it goes on. Then you filter based on, say, price or the RAM or the display or whatever it is. You keep on giving filters. Okay, so all those things are based on your requirement. You will be, basically what you'll be doing is you're extracting a subset. You'll be getting a data from whatever a big collection I have, right? So you want to only obtain items with the names that contain a number, example, okay, that I've changed it to whatever shopping cart we have kept. Okay, so it can greatly simplify the process of filtering, sorting, okay, and ordering, grouping, etc. Okay, they are all available in C# 3.0 onwards. I've just given an example. Just look at this. Okay, start with the first line. String array games. And you see that we have just declared some game names. Alright, that first line is clear. The first line is just a string array created with some names there. That's all. Next line, what I've written, you can ignore that I enumerable. Whatever is written, you can ignore. We'll just think it as var, variable. Have you come across the word called var in JavaScript? What does it hold? Any type. A variable. Okay, because system automatically, that's also available in C#, by the way. Var. I'll be using var in other ones. I just wanted to show you that I enumerable string subset. What do you mean by that? A subset which implements the interface of I enumerable, and its the type is string. String data type. Okay. Leave that. Look at the query, the one which is in blue. Read that and you tell me what is the what you think the answer is. Okay, you need not bother about whether you know the syntax already or not, but just read that and you should be able to understand. From G in games. Have I declared G before that? No. I hope you follow. I have not declared it. What is that? It's a range variable. It's allowed here in LINQ syntax. Okay, from range variable in collection. What is the collection? Games. What collection is it? It's a name collection. It's a collection of game names. Right? So games is a collection. Do you agree? Why is it a collection? Because string array it is. Any array for that sake is a collection. Alright? Where G dot length greater than 6. Order by G, select G. Looking at that, what do we understand? I want you to get all the games in that list which or whose name's length is greater than 6. Order them according, by the way, if I don't mention ascending or descending, by default it is ascending. Same as SQL, right? So since I have not mentioned here, what am I expecting here? Ascending order. I want the game names in ascending order, whichever game name is greater than 6 characters. This is what we are trying to tell from that syntax. Okay, I am querying. This is looking like an SQL query, but what did I query here? An array. Now, will this change if that games becomes a database? No. If that games was is equal to, you have given select star from table name, and you have put table name or the data of table inside that games, I can still write the same query. I hope you follow. It doesn't matter where that collection comes from. Syntax will be like this. This is a query syntax. This is not method syntax. This is a query syntax. So let me just begin. What is the keyword here? From. From something in some collection. What is that something? That something is your range variable. Okay, which can be used without even being declared. That's only allowed inside LINQ syntax. Outside C# LINQ syntax, you can't do that. You will have to initialize a variable to use it. Here I have not initialized it, but I am using it. Okay, and the moment I write, whatever I write after the word from becomes my range variable, and it is accessible throughout my query. You can see that everywhere I've used the word G only, not games. Because that G represents everything which is there in games. And look at the second line where G dot length. Okay, what do you mean by that? Not the entire array. Each and every element in that array's length should be greater than 6. G dot length, what is G there? Every time you run this, or when this program runs, Morrowind, first game, will be G. Bioshock will be G. I hope you follow. Each and every word which comes will become G, and it will see whether the length is greater than 6. And this is not SQL query. This is written in part of C# itself. Okay, and ordered by G, select G. Look at that next one, it's just printing it out. Okay, so instead of this, let me just show it in Visual Studio itself. Okay, let me just open up a simple program, and I've created a simple console application. I've already imported system.link. It's compulsory, this should be there. If it is not there, please write it. Okay, using system.link. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple array. Let me create an int array. Okay, let me just name it as numbers is equal to, let me create a new int array, and let me just put some values on my own. Let me just put 8, 4 and 1. Okay, I've just put some values, guys. Some values are there. Now it's an integer array, isn't it? So all I need to do here is I want to get something. Let's say this is my set of data. Just imagine this is my set of data, and I'm asking you to print all even numbers. Nothing you would have got these kind of questions, right? An integer array is given. I want you to print all the even numbers in this array separately. How do I print in general terms? First, I'll write a for each. Right? I'll write a for each, and then I'll say take every element from that using an index, or I can write a for or a for each. Doesn't matter, whichever you like. And then take every element, and then what I'll do is I'll say mod 2 is equal to 0, then add it to another list or print it there. All these things I can do. Instead of that, I can just write a query. How do I write a query? Let's see this. Okay, let me just name that result as var. Please note, you can use what data type you want to use it as. It can be a collection, or you can say IEnumerable, all those things. To avoid confusion, just keep var. What do you mean by this? It can store anything. It's a variable which can store anything. So I'm just going to say result is equal to. Now I'm going to write LINQ query. Okay, how do I begin? What's the first keyword I need to use? From. So let me just put from. Okay, followed by which. Please note, I'm not using double quotes. I'm writing it as part of C# itself. It's language integrated. Okay, so now, what is the second thing I need to type here? So according to the syntax, it's a range variable. Okay, so let me just put from n. Any number, anything you can put there. Okay, it can be anything, guys. It's your wish. Okay, the second one is not yours. In what? Collection of data. What is the collection? Numbers. So I'll just say numbers. Okay, you can continue writing in the same line. I don't prefer that. I prefer writing it in the next line. Until you put semicolon, it is not over, right? So I'm writing in different lines so that it is easy for us to read it and understand it. From n in numbers, what do you want me to do? Okay, I am just going to print it as it is, which means whatever is there, I want you to give it to me. What I'm going to say is select n. How do I read this in SQL? Select star from numbers, which means print everything from numbers. That's all. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a for each, and I'll say var item in what is the collection? Result. Result is my collection of data. Print that result. I'll just say console.writeLine item. Is that fine? Okay, so when I print now, what do you think I should be getting as an output? You see, what I've written is very simple. Okay, I've just written numbers. Some numbers I've put randomly there, and I created a result from n, which is a range variable, in numbers, select n, which means everything. In other words, select star from numbers. What is the output? All values, whatever I have given, 8, 7, 5, 6, 3, 2, 4, 1, all those things are printed in the same order. Since I have given right line, one after the other. Okay, so that is done. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a small change here. Okay, I'm going to say order. Order by what? N. Not numbers. I will not talk to the collection anymore. After I have created the first line, I will never talk to the collection directly. Rather, I will talk to the range variable only. I hope this is clear, right? You will never talk to the collection, you should talk to the range variable henceforth. Okay, just like how after you create an object, you don't talk to the class anymore, you talk to the object. Here, imagine this is the object of this particular collection, and you want to talk only to that particular object anymore. Okay, so I said order by n, select n. Now let's see what is the output. What do you think should be the output? The numbers should be in ascending order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, ordered values now. I'm going to just change it to descending. Okay, keywords. By the way, please note all are in dark blue color. Keywords. Okay, they are not. They are not SQL keywords. Okay, they are not inside double quotes. So let's follow. Let's see what is the output. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, this is in reverse order, descending. Now, what if I say order by, let it be order by n, but I am going to put one more condition. I want all numbers which are, let's say, greater than 4. Okay, let's say that. I'll say where n greater than 4. Fine? Done. Now, when you run 5, 6, 7, 8, greater than 4. Okay, now what if I would like to give that same thing, whichever number is divisible or even numbers only, print all even numbers. What should I do? N mod 2 is equal to 0. C#. Okay, please note the same thing if I wrote it in SQL, I cannot use double equal to, I'll write equal to. One equal to is enough in SQL. Here, since it is C#, I need to put double equal to. I'm comparing. Okay, this is not an assignment. So let's print and see what's the output. 2, 4, 6 and 8. All the numbers. Okay, please look at the query there. Sorry. What is this query saying? Select whatever numbers you get from this collection, order them by the number, but before that, see whether that number mod 2 is equal to 0, and then order, then print it. Is that fine? I hope this is clear. Okay, with this I'll stop for today. In the next class we'll see a little bit more in detail of this, and then we'll go to database.